Hello and welcome to a special Thunderquack reaction kind of video. Like, listen, all right, we tried to do like a live reaction video thing, and like technology was not having it. So instead, Joe and I'm Mike. You guys know. Listen, it doesn't matter. You guys are just watching this, and we're gonna tell you what we thought about the Acolyte trailer that we just watched. I watched it twice in a row because it was so good. This show looks ridiculous. Joe, give me all of your thoughts immediately.
Yeah, they are. Uh, I don't know, man. Like it's cool. I'm excited. It's cool to see High Republic in live action. Um, I have one nitpick, one
Okay, okay.
baby tiny
Yeah,
nitpick.
go for it.
Um, I saw the leaked trailer from Celebration,
Hmm.
and it was basically the exact same thing. Like, very little was different. But my favorite shot looks like it was reshot.
Okay.
That very last thing at the end when everybody's turning on their lightsabers. Originally, that was one shot, and it was the character in the middle turns on the lightsaber and like is looking like a badass. And then there's like a beat, and then everybody else turns on their lightsaber. And I was like,
Mm,
"Oh, that looks so cool!" And then this time it was just like he looks really scared and turns on his lightsaber, and then it's just like quick cuts, and it's
mm,
just like, that like awesome, like, yeah, we're gonna kick some ass moment. It's now like this, and I
yeah,
think I get why. Like they want it to be, um, whoever they're fighting is to be the threat because like then he immediately does like a force push or whatever.
yeah,
The environment is like, dust is kicked up and everything. So like I get it. They're shifting the tone of who's kind of like in control of that moment. But I was just like, oh man, I was so looking forward to seeing that shot in like beautiful high definition. Um, but yeah, it looks cool. They are getting. I feel like, am I crazy? They're getting a lot of mileage out of that like gate. That like there always seems to be a character wandering into town with that same gate entrance.
yeah.
I feel like we've seen that in Mandalorian. I feel like it might have even been in the sequel trilogy. Um, but yeah, so I mean, looks incredible. I can't wait. What did you think?
Yeah, dude, I'm all over this. I, the tone, the visuals, that the actors that are in it, which it's like this is one of those shows where it's like we've heard about this for so long. We've been talking about this show for so long that you forget a lot of the details
Mhm.
and like who's gonna be in it. I had completely spaced on Carrie Ann Moss being in this,
Oh, she's the
and
one I was looking forward to most. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
and
she's
then seeing her in full Jedi robes, I am just like I'm so excited. I'm so happy. I'm such a happy Star Wars fan right now. Like there are tears in my eyes. I'm not gonna like cry on a stream because I'm not that type of a person, but I am definitely like full of very very positive emotions right now, and I'm really really excited for this June 4th. Not that far away. The great thing about it is that the road from here to there is full of incredible stuff to keep us happy. I mean,
yeah.
as we record this, we are a couple of days away from a new Ghostbusters movie, and then we go into a Godzilla movie, and then like we've got Mad Max, Planet of the Apes. Like the next month and a half is actually we've got Knuckles TV series,
We
right?
al-
We've
we
got
also have another half of Bad Batch.
another half of Bad Batch. X-Men 97 starts this week.
Oh
It
my
actually
god.
starts tomorrow night. So like there's lots of awesome stuff to keep us satisfied and to keep us talking about all sorts of things on Thunderquack. But yeah, June 4th literally cannot come fast enough at this point, because I can't wait for this show. This was one of those ones that it was like if you had asked me what was sort of like on my list of hype and that sort of thing, the Acolyte probably wouldn't have even like really registered in
Mm,
terms of like just stuff that's coming off the top of the head. But this trailer changes the game.
yeah.
Like this is what, and going into the prequels in 1999, we really didn't know what to expect. We couldn't have, because George had a different vision for what the Old Republic was than what I think a lot of us had in our heads. Now that we know what the Republic was and what the Jedi were, and we have that, like, we've all had now, 20 odd years to to uh get used to it. We're on the 25th anniversary this year, right, of Phantom Menace. So 25 years to really like acclimate
Don't remind
to.
me, man.
I know what the prequels are and what that world looks like, to now get what I think a lot of us were kind of expecting slash hoping for going into the prequels, in terms of like the Jedi at full scale, like the height of their power, um and what that kind of a story is going to look like. I'm very, very, very excited for this. And it's not just the Jedi components of it, because the Sith aspect looks very intriguing as well, right?
Mm,
And there's sort of like these two points to it, like these two sides, and that to me is where this is going to get interesting. And yeah, like these lead characters that we're seeing so far, everybody who speaks in the trailer. I mean, like, I think it's Amanda Stenberg. I think that's her last name. I doesn't say anything. Just a visage at this point, right? But very much inspired by some of that concept art from the Phantom Menace, with
mm,
the like those
yeah,
dreads, like
yeah.
the red dreadlocks, which was one of the original concepts for the Sith, like what would become Darth Maul. But more importantly, what actually ends up becoming the Night Sisters, right?
Mm,
Like
yeah.
that design ends up translating, along with some of the other ones from the art book, ends up translating over to. We're just recording our video right now, and I'll edit this together with other stuff, so I don't know, maybe there's some like pictures or something like that playing alongside this, so that you guys can actually see what I'm talking about. But a lot of that stuff ends up becoming Asajj Ventress, and then eventually the Night Sisters, and all of that in the Clone Wars. So there's a lot of really great visual connective tissue there, and it's so funny because we were just talking on an episode of Force Perspectives that actually won't come out for a couple of weeks, but you and I were just having a conversation yesterday about all of the stuff in the concept art that's never made it to screen. But the thing that I love about these projects, and you pointed out the archway, right? That archway is like a Ralph McQuarrie style
Oh, okay.
concept, right?
Okay.
And that's why I don't know if it's the same one, and I'll have to go through and look at the video in order to really like analyze it. But you're probably right that it's probably something like a piece of set deck that has shown up in Mandalorian. It probably showed up in Obi-Wan, because I know there is like in the
Right.
I don't remember what town they're in, if they're in Mos Eisley or Mos Espa, but wherever it is, when Riva threatens
Mm.
Owen, and all of that stuff goes down, right? um, I am sure that they are reusing the same physical assets across these different shows, um, and just set decking them different, right, and repainting them, whatever. But it's also very similar to the archway that's in the Force Awakens, in Nema Outpost,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That where the Falcon is and all of that stuff, and all of it is inspired by Ralph McQuarrie concept art. And I'll point this out by saying that like the archway actually also shows up in Star Wars Rebels more than once
Yeah, I
in a
on
couple of different
Lothal,
ways.
right? Yeah, I feel like it
Yeah.
was yeah.
Yeah, so that's just another example of them going back to concept art, not just
Mhm.
like prequel concept art or sequel concept art, but like going back to everything. And like there's this wealth of design influence from 40 plus years, coming up on 50, right, of Star Wars existing, and all this stuff for them to pull from, right? So yeah, there I think with any Star Wars project, there's always like a question of, is this going to have the right tone? Is it going to have like sort of the right elements of it, the right mix of things, in order to make it a good Star Wars project? And you guys know I talk about Andor all the time, where I feel like the mix is a little bit off, right? It's a little bit too much human focused. It's a little bit too serious, a little bit too dark. This show looks like it's the kind of like dark Star Wars story that I want to get into. And the reason why is like right off the bat, and the trailers set so many of our expectations, right? And this one is like, hey, heads up, take a look. We've got aliens, we've got they're eating their noodles and whatever on whatever planet this is, and we've got these younglings at the Jedi Temple, and just seeing the variety of locations and species and just sort of like that thing that we praise Bad Batch for so much,
Yeah.
right? Because Bad Batch lives in the Star Wars universe in a way that none of the other animated stuff has, like like to an extent
Mm.
that nothing else has. And that's by virtue of the fact that they have this long pipeline and all of these assets from Clone Wars, Rebels, Resistance. They can just borrow from everything and throw together whatever they need. And they're able to add that variety. I think that we are now hitting that point with the live action stuff, that they've built things, they've got costumes, they've got this, that, whatever, that we're gonna start to see, as much as we'll see like reused stuff, which is what it's always been, right? Like prequel character, like costumes and whatever that are sitting in storage show up
Mm.
in whatever show.
Yeah.
Same with like the sequel stuff, right? There's a lot of that reuse. But I think that we're finally at a point with the Star Wars stuff where, with the live action, they're like, okay, we have enough stuff in the archive that we can like redress this, we can recostume this character, it becomes a new character, and all of that sort of thing. That they can then actually also focus on, like, let's add some new stuff, right? Like,
Mm.
let's add this thing over here, let's do this, let's do that. But the world starts to feel lived in, it starts to feel expansive, and it starts to feel like what a Star Wars movie feels like, especially like what the prequels felt like,
Mm.
because the prequels were just so dense with new species, new vehicles, new ideas, new concepts, stuff going on, that it has literally taken us 2 decades, I think, to fully appreciate what that is, right? But yeah, I would say like the most recent season of Mandalorian, with all the stuff on Coruscant, showed us that they were ready to do that. But
Yeah.
this is a completely new look, and where Mandalorian feels a lot like a TV show, this doesn't necessarily feel like a TV show from these shots. I mean, the shot of, I can't remember which character it is, because again, I've only watched it twice and I haven't like frame by framed it, but whoever
We
it
don't
is
even
that
like
sort
know
of,
names yet, right? Like,
yeah, whoever it is that's like standing on that sort of like that dark rocky surface looking out over the ocean.
yeah,
I mean, like that evokes a lot of images from The Last Jedi on
yeah.
Octo. And
I felt the same way. Yeah.
yeah, and like maybe it is Octo, right? Like we don't know yet, because we know so little about this show. I actually am totally fine with that. Let's keep it that way. Let's not worry about like getting all of the information beforehand. One of my favorite things about getting new Star Wars, and this gave me that feeling when I was watching the trailer the first time, is like, it felt an awful lot like 1999,
Yeah.
25 years ago,
Yeah.
watching the Phantom Menace trailer and
Yeah.
being like, I am seeing this, I'm seeing that, and I'm having ideas, and I know I'm wrong. I'm wrong about everything, because like what we thought Phantom Menace was gonna be before we sat in that theater was a totally different thing than what we got.
Mm.
And that feeling is a thing that I actually like. I really love it. I love this period where we're like speculating and we're like, oh man, what's going on here, what's going on with that, I think this character, that character, whatever, and we get all of these ideas in our head, and then we get to sit down and actually experience it, and they're just obliterated, right? And replaced with something else. Sometimes people have a reaction to that. I think most people have a reaction to that ends up being negative, because they set expectations, right?
Mm.
Whereas it's like, I don't want to, and I think over the years I have learned to do this is a skill that I've developed. I'm not setting expectations for myself, I'm just living in the moment, right? Like I'm just like reveling in the joy of new Star Wars, where it's like we get a trailer, we get to get excited, we get to like speculate and pick it apart and go like, I really like that, ooh, that's really cool, right? What does that mean, what is it, how does this relate to the poster and the blood streak and like all of this stuff, and we can go crazy at this point. But then, like, very quickly, June 4th, we're gonna get to actually sit and experience what this is. So
2 episodes. Did we know
yeah,
that before the trailer?
I don't think so. I think we just had
Okay,
the
yeah,
date, right? We just
yeah.
had the date. So
Do we know how
yeah,
many episodes this show is?
I'm sure that we probably do. I'm sure that
Okay,
we've gotten some inkling. I don't know it off the top of my head. I would imagine it's probably in that 6 to 8
yeah,
episode range, right? The same
okay.
as like Mando, and I guess what's Mando seasons are 10, right? And then
Are they?
Andor, I think so. And then Andor is
I think they're just
12.
8.
Are they just 8?
I feel like
They
they're
might
just
just be
8.
8. And then Obi-Wan was 6, right? So
Yeah, we almost short. Yeah,
Obi-Wan was a shorter one,
Boba
but
Fett was, I think,
Obi-Wan was a
7, right?
movie
Yeah,
that was turned into a
right.
series, right?
Yeah.
So kind of a different thing. So yeah, I'm sure it probably sits around that 8 episode mark, which I to me feels good. Like I like an 8
Yeah, that's
episode
fine.
season. I feel like Obi-Wan for me is a little bit too short, but also like that's how much story they had. Like
Hmm.
it it fits the story that they were telling to do 6 episodes, but at the same time I just want more Obi-Wan. Like again, in the episode that we recorded yesterday, my only complaint about Obi-Wan is that there's just not more of it. I just want more of it. I but yeah, so I think we're probably sitting in that 8 episode zone for this one. Um,
So
yeah.
let me ask you: were any of these characters that you recognized from pre-existing High Republic
Yeah,
stuff?
I think there's one shot of a female character with green skin and I think purple-ish hair, sort
Okay.
of walking towards the screen in the Jedi Temple. I believe that's Vernestra Rowe, I think,
Okay.
which is an existing character. I am not a High Republic aficionado. I've only listened to the audiobook of the first book and read some of the comics. And watched all of Young Jedi Adventures, but Young Jedi Adventures really has no bearing on any of this. But yeah, I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that that's who that character is. I'll look it up real quick. Real quick. Vernestra Rowe, I think is she's got green skin and purple hair.
Mm.
And people were like excited that she was going to show up. So yeah. I don't know. I've talked a whole bunch. Do you have anything else that you wanted to add before
No,
we
I mean,
close
I
out?
just for me, it's exciting to kind of go into something Star Wars without any real background in like any context. You know what I mean? Because like
Hmm.
Mandalorian, it's like, oh, I'm very familiar with this period. So when
Yeah.
these characters show up, it's gonna like I'm gonna know what to expect. Right now, it. I mean, you nailed it when you said it feels like 1999 again, where it's like
Hmm.
anything can happen. Like I don't know anything about this time. I don't know
Yeah.
anything about these. I mean, I know Yoda and like some of the Phantom Menace Jedi Council members who might be around. Obo Rancis or something might be around. Like, who knows? But like, it's cool to just kind of go in with a totally blank slate, let the story and the action and the cinematography and all that stuff just like handle all the heavy lifting. No, and just yeah, just like going in essentially blind. It's
Hmm.
exciting. It's cool because it's just not something that for the most part like I do with Star Wars projects because it's usually stuff that like okay yeah I have the context that's necessary, but it almost makes me feel like a casual fan going in not knowing because like a lot of people are going to be very familiar with the High Republic, so I feel like oh I'm the outsider looking in on this one. So, but
Hmm.
it's kind of cool. It's exciting, and I mean everything we saw was awesome. The action looks great. The choreography looks great. Carrie Ann Moss, man, I've always had a crush on her, so I'm just super excited that she's
Yeah.
back and is like
Yeah.
playing this badass Jedi. So this is like super exciting. But yeah,
Yeah.
I can't wait to see more about these characters.
As if I couldn't be more of a simp for Carrie Ann Moss. Now
Yeah.
it's like everything that she's ever done, I'm just always like, yeah. What like she just yeah. I don't know. I can't. We need to be careful because you and I think often end up telling on ourselves a little bit when we get into these conversations. But she's got that energy that I think
Yeah.
both of us are like, yes, please, thank
Hmm.
you, ma'am, whatever you say.
Mm.
And having just recently watched her, in the Matrix Resurrections, and she's so great in that. And the
I
end of
love
that
that movie.
dude, oh my god, we'll have a conversation about that at some point because
Okay,
that so good. But yeah, to see her now in Star Wars in the Jedi robes, which
that's cool.
which I'm gonna say a thing that's maybe a little bit controversial. I don't find the Jedi robes to be particularly flattering to most people. um it's one of those things where it's like I kind of feel like they're a little bit asexual and weird. I but like that's also kind of the point. Like I think that's
Yeah,
actually
I didn't
within
have an
in
issue
the
with that.
idea of the design. And I kind of like I miss the era when we had like sexy sci-fi, right? Like in the 80s through the 90s. Like it sort of ends with The Fifth Element. That's to me like the last time that we
Mm.
got like proper sexy sci-fi.
God, that's another
Maybe The
amazing
Matrix
movie.
is included in that, right? Because Carrie Ann Moss being an icon in that black leather, right? Star Wars just it tends to have like this sort of like, I don't know, sanitized kind of like approach to sexuality and that sort of thing.
Mm.
That is not a it's not a problem. It's just like I would just like Star Wars to be like I you know what, I'll actually say this show, the lead character, that dark sider, I not following that rule actually. Like her outfit is yeah, it's Amanda Stenberg, her character is looking very night sistery, right? Which like
Mm.
that Asajj Ventress thing. So I would like to see more of that sort of stuff
Mm.
represented in the mainstream live action, so that we're seeing a just again, this is it's about variety, right? Like it's about the Star Wars visual language being more than just like these handful of things that people want to sort of pigeonhole it as. um and so like yeah, I am used to seeing Carrie Ann Moss in the Matrix and thinking of her very much as like a sex symbol icon. And
Mm.
so then like the Jedi robes are a little, they're not that, right? They're actually the opposite end of that spectrum. But regardless, my point in saying all of that is that regardless, I am like ready for her in this. Like I'm
Yeah.
like just she looks so good and so natural
Yeah.
as a character in this universe, and I just know that she's gonna bring that like that calm focused energy that she
Yeah.
has,
Yeah.
that I that like she had it as Trinity in the Matrix. And when you see her in interviews and stuff, she's just always like very thoughtful and pensive
Mm.
with her responses. And I'm so excited to see that as a
Yeah.
character in Star Wars. Like I am getting the vibe that she's going to rise the ranks of my favorite Jedi and be like holding the same sort of a position as like a Qui-Gon,
Hmm.
sort of like that sort of of an attitude. Even though like she doesn't say very much in the trailer, she just kind of, I think there's maybe like one or two lines that she's got. It's mostly the let me see if I can bring up the actor. No, man, IMDb, you're failing me as I'm trying to have the name.
Technology in general is giving us a hard time today, man.
Yeah. Uh Lee Young Jai is the Jedi who's speaking for the most part in this. And
Mm.
again, like the tough part here is that we have no character names yet, right? We don't
Mm.
know who any of these people are. Um and hopefully that changes soon. I mean, it seems like all of the rumors last week were that like the marketing machine is getting ramped up and about to like dump a whole bunch of Acolyte stuff on us.
Yeah.
So I'll bet you anything that like if I jumped on Twitter right now, there's probably like an Entertainment Online or like an EW or something like that article that's starting to like give us character names and stuff. But
Mm.
as of this moment right now when we're recording, we don't know any of this stuff. So um, this is going to be a topic of conversation for the next month and a half, as
Right.
we 2 months, I guess, right now, as we kind of you know, move towards June 4th. But but as of right now, I am excited. I can't
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah.
I think
For
it's gonna
sure.
be really really good.
Yeah.
So
It looks cool. Looks cool.
awesome. Well, I think that's it. Thank you guys for hanging out with us for a minute and talking about Star Wars The Acolyte. It's technically The Acolyte, although we all just keep calling it Acolyte. And obviously we're going to talk about this movie, this show, a ton over the course of the next little bit. We will also be doing episode recaps on Force Perspectives, so make sure that you're subscribed over on podcast services and stuff, and wherever you're watching this, whether it's YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. Make sure that you follow us so that you get all of the latest, and go check out the Thunderquack podcast, where Joe and I have already, like, we got an episode that's on Patreon right now that'll be on podcast services in a week, talking about the poster and sort of our lead up and expectations to this trailer and all of that sort of thing. So check out the Thunderquack podcast, check out everything, and thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one.